Hey everyone, this is Chef. Today we're going to talk about Power Reaper in World vs. World. In this video, we're going to cover some upgrades to the build that we've covered previously, with a goal of making you a more focused and effective damage player within your squad. So, let's get into it. For this build, we're going to lean into some synergies that Reaper has with the generation of the Chilled condition. Yes, Chilled gets blanked by resistance, and it can get cleansed, but in World vs. World, any movement impairing condition has the potential to be very good, and Chilled lets us do some other things for our squad as well. Starting with our weapons, we're going to replace the Sigil of Energy on our Greatsword with a Sigil of Hydromancy. This chills in an area around us on weapon swap, as well as when entering Shroud. We'll leave the rest of our weapon sigils as they were in the previous build, and we'll continue using Runes of the Scholar, as the damage gain from these far outweighs the benefits of other runes that produce chilled, such as Runes of the Reaper. We'll also be moving some of our traits around. In Spite, we'll be using Bitter Chill instead of Spiteful Talisman as our adept trait. Because of the amount of time that you spend in Shroud, Greatsword, and for this build, Lich Form, the recharge reduction on Axe Focus skills is less valuable, as you spend much less time in Axe Focus overall. It is a bit of a personal damage loss when striking foes with no boons, but converting all of your chill into vulnerability enables higher overall damage across your entire squad. Soul Reaping will be unchanged, but in Reaper, we'll be dropping Augury of Death and using Chilling Nova instead. As with Spiteful Talisman, we spend a lot of our time in weapon sets that lock us out of using our utility skills, and while the reduced recharge on Nothing Can Save You is really nice, Chilling Nova is an additional means of stacking AoE Chilled and Vulnerability on a pretty generous 10-second internal cooldown. Speaking of utility skills, I've mentioned Lich Form a couple times already, and we'll be getting rid of Chilled to the Bone in favor of it. Lich Form is an extremely high damage elite skill, but it relies heavily on projectiles to apply most of that damage. This means that effects which destroy projectiles blank your damage in Lich Form, and effects which reflect projectiles actively hurt your own party when they're used. However, the unblockable charges from Nothing Can Save You can be used to prevent Lich Form attacks from being destroyed or reflected, ensuring that we can land all of our damage. The rotation works something like this. First, stack up your damage modifiers. Make sure you're in Greatsword so that Sigil of Force is active. Make sure you just left Shroud so that Soul Barbs is active. And make sure you're within 300 range so that Soul Eater is active. Then, use Nothing Can Save You, hitting as many enemies as possible for maximum unblockable attacks, and enter your Lich Form. Alternate between Lich 1 and Lich 2 until you run out of your unblockable charges, then use Lich 4, Lich 5, and finally Lich 3, as it's far less important to make these attacks unblockable compared to your Lich 1 and Lich 2. Finally, maintain your Lich auto attacks as long as it's safe to do so, and drop Lich Form as soon as you see projectiles being destroyed or reflected. Lich Form lends itself well to a second bomb, once you've exhausted your time in Shroud from your opening rotation. As long as you don't take too much damage while you're in Shroud and have it drop early, Nothing Can Save You should be close to recharged by the time your Shroud ends. At this point, you can immediately use it and enter Lich Form while Soul Barbs is still active. Then, as Lich Form expires, your Wells should almost be off cooldown, and you have access to your opening spike damage rotation again. Altogether, this gives you 3 spike damage opportunities within 45 seconds or so, which lines you up well with other professions' bombs. That said, there are some drawbacks. Reaper doesn't have a lot of personal survivability at its disposal, and this build is taking away even more of its already limited tools. We sacrifice a Sigil of Energy, as well as a source of personal stability, in favor of an ability that quite literally makes you a big target. Good groups know to not only focus a Lich when they appear, but also as a cue to use projectile reflex and bubbles, which means timing your use of Lich and not overstaying your welcome in this ability are crucial to applying your damage successfully. The trade-off is better damage output, both for yourself and your squad, thanks to Lich's high damage AoE auto attacks and multiple new sources of chilled and vulnerability, but it is a much more challenging build to play overall, which is why it's an advanced build rather than an intro build. When I'm playing Reaper, this is typically the build that I'm playing, so leave a comment if you have any questions or criticisms about it. It's definitely the build that I have the most experience on at this point. If you'd like to be notified when I release new videos, consider subscribing, and you can also find me on Twitch if you'd like to watch me play these builds in real time and ask questions there. But until then, I've been Chef, and enjoy the rest of your day.